So thanks everyone who has been able to track over here to the Zoom call. And we'll be discussing unlocking unlimited opportunities with AI, robotics, and other emerging technologies. And the idea of this is that we're entering an age where companies and organizations will have to adopt Web3 technologies or be left behind. And so today we'll be discussing what some of these technologies are and with some of the people that are deploying these technologies in the field. And so I'm going to introduce the guests, and then we're also going to talk about the format of the event and then jump right in. So here we go. Today we have on the call, we have April Moss, and she is the founder of constructiontechinstitute.org and digibuild.com, and is in the midst of revolutionizing the construction space with Web3 solutions like AI and blockchain. And she's a great friend of ours. And we also have Colton Cranston, who's a data-driven construction professional with 10 years of experience, bridging the gap between field operations and technology. Alongside of Colton, we have another expert in AI and crypto, postmodern blockchain solutions, and he has spent the last 30 years in industrial application and controls, and the last 10 years in crypto, holochain, and AI. And our last guest, Matt, is unfortunately not able to attend. So we'll be moving into now the next portion of this, where Craig will be helping us direct the conversation, and he will be our co-host. And Craig is also the executive director of the nonprofit AO Lab, and he has worked with many organizations on Skunk Works, Secret Projects, and even Nintendo.
Yes.
And so, perfect. And Harvey will be fielding any questions that you might have that you would like to answered by some of our guest speakers here. And we'll be spending the last few minutes going over those questions. So reach out to Harvey if you have any questions that you would like to ask during this event. And so our next event will be going global in 90 days by using some AI solutions that we'll be discussing today, and probably using another platform to go live. So we won't have any future syncing issues. And so with that, we're going to jump into the questions. And so the first question for today will be, when did you first get involved in AI, and how is that working for you?
Yeah, and I'll kick this off here, and then I'll pass the mic around a little bit. So I am Craig, as Andrew mentioned. Thank you for the introduction. And I am also, I suppose I should mention, my company would be remiss with me if I didn't. I am the chief commercial officer of a for-profit company named Casualware that's working on all sorts of solutions leveraging AI on the edge and with the web and all sorts of stuff. But hopping into the question, when did you first get involved in AI and how is it working for you? For myself, my journey with AI actually began way back in the day, focusing on augmented reality, chasing what was possible with augmented reality, led me down the path of ambient intelligence kind of being the pursuit of how do you bring many actors in an environment to all work with each other, digital, human, or otherwise. That led me to pioneering all sorts of experiences with my teams. And then from there, using AI to kind of inject personality, life, and of course, intelligence into a whole environment, a whole ecosystem. And how do you do that is a tough question. That's my background. I could wax on that subject for a bit more, but I do want to pass the mic. And I'm actually going to start with April, if that's okay with you. How did you get involved with AI, and how's it working for you?
Yep. So AI is new to me. I actually got introduced to it through co-founding with the company Digibuild, and I'm the CEO there. And one of the things that we look for when we're trying to digitize the construction industry, which does not want to be digitized, is how do we make it simple using AI to find not only human resources, but also supply chain management, finding materials and stuff using AI, and being able to simplify that for the industry. And as you think from an HR standpoint, anybody that has a knowledge or understanding of how AI works, even as simple as how to use ChatGPT, that is becoming a superpower. So in any industry, there's at least 23 industries right now that are using AI and are going to be revolutionized by AI. The people that within those industries that know anything, just even the simplest piece of AI, are actually going to have the opportunity to make more money and be more valuable to their industry and to their company. So that's how I got involved with it. As the executive director of a nonprofit institute, Construction Technology Institute, we're taking that knowledge and have partnered with and collaborated with Colton on this, of taking those types of technologies to the construction industry globally. So that's how I got into AI.
Wonderful. And with that, let's hear from Colton and then followed that by Perry.
Yeah, I guess I could say I got into AI more so when I was doing my studies. I was studying applied economics at the graduate level, which at the time is a lot of predictive statistics and a lot of computational based statistics. So sort of the precursor of what we now call AI. We weren't working with as big of data sets, but as the technology has evolved, I've evolved with it. So I use it all the time in my work life, especially. So in my role as the senior solutions manager at Digibuild, I can tell you that we're figuring out how to basically improve our clients' procurement workflows using AI pretty extensively. That comes in a lot of forms. So what we'll do is, as we're getting quotes back from vendors, we will use AI to parse out those quotes that are in different formats into a standardized format, so we can capture that pricing data in our database. We also use AI to match vendors with RFPs. So when people want to with RFQs, when people want to request quotes for certain building materials based on their project location and their timeline and the scope of those materials that they're looking for, we can use AI to find and basically narrow our search of suppliers that we're reaching out to. We use AI within internal processes all the time. So with email automation that are, from triggers that happened in our workflows. I personally use AI all the time to help develop internal workflow solutions, tools that help our CS team and our operation team work more efficiently. I interact heavily with Google Bard. What I'll do sometimes, say if I have an idea for how to capture some data in the field and bring it back into our project managers, I will go out, use Google Bard to help me how to best create the simple app that I have in mind. And it'll walk me through step by step in like a low code or no code platform like AppSheet. And so what ends up happening, in a couple hours, I can have 80% of this end solution built out, handed off to our developers, who then can just work out the heavy hitting, the above my pay grade sort of stuff. So, I mean, it cuts down on our developer workflow like crazy as a result of that. So it's everywhere. It's not going anywhere. And I think my motto is like, let's figure out how to make it work best for me and those around me. And prevent myself from having to experience some of the downsides of AI. I'll pass it back to you, Craig.
Awesome. Well, now I'll pass it to Perry.
Yeah, my background in AI is long. Since I'm in the industrial control field, we've been using rudimentary AIs for decades now. Obviously, they weren't capable of the kind of reasoning that the current ones are, but it's just been a slow progression, and then in the last 18 months, a huge progression in their capability to absorb unstructured data and produce control outputs. But my specialization is in how to obtain and monitor the data coming into them from arbitrary places and close the loop in industrial control, like taking those outputs and actually activating something in the real world. So it's very exciting.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And our next question here is, what do you see as the future of AI and what will happen in 2024? That is a difficult question, especially with AI, because all progress is moving so fast. Obviously, at this point, AI is advancing at a pace of hours, not even days. But depending upon what things I see and what trends I see, I'll speak to that a little bit, and then I'll pass the mic around once more. For me, the future of AI in the short term looks like working with multiple, and I'll call them actors, which is just a technical term for, you can think of them as agents, multiple agents across multiple AIs to kind of build workflows, pipelines that are agnostic. In the short term, it's going to be very simple. It's going to be, I have this GPT custom output that I'm going to pass to Bard or any other AI service that will then transform that and then pass back some sort of feedback from another AI and so on and so forth. But where the maturation of that will quickly follow is to have headless AI that's just able to enter a conversation with no context, realize what its speciality is, offer that at a moment that's going to be contextually relevant, and then hand that back into the conversation for other AIs, and then to have several human agents in the mix of that, directing that flow. So I like to describe the near-term future of AI more like animal husbandry. It's AI husbandry. It's you're herding sheep is really what it is. The other interesting trend I'll point out in AI that's important for everyone to keep an eye on, this is into the future, and I'm going to say this is probably mid to late 2024. We're going to see some rather interesting hardware advancements, specifically in analog computing, which is a strange thing if you're not familiar with it. But yes, we're going back to analog, just like the human body is specialized in all sorts of ways. So, for example, your eye is an analog computer of sorts. Your eye takes in light, the rods and cones perform calculations, they pass that to your brain, and your visual cortex is rendering that into an image. So too, analog hardware is on the rise in AI, and analog hardware is highly specialized. It's hardware suited to a very specific purpose, but it's incredibly good at performing that purpose very cost effectively at very low power. And it won't be too long before many analog AI devices become the endpoints for general compute, general intelligence AI. We're not anywhere near like specifically like a Skynet, but will become the eyes and ears, the analog AI eyes and ears to more generalized AI processes. That's kind of the future I see in the near term. For what we're working on in the for-profit company side for casualware, one of the things we're working on is building out the environments to allow several AI agents to collaborate together in real time and synchronously and asynchronously in the web, and so that you can embed AI on the edge, in what we call the fog, in the room. And I'll speak to the best case scenario. The best case scenario for everyone is we'll see advancements in offline local, what's called fog computing AI hardware, so that we can have performant on-prem, no cost AI working openly to our benefit. And if that doesn't go well, we'll know. I'm going to go in reverse order. I'm going to pass the mic back to Perry this time, and I'll repeat the question for those joining late. What do you see as the future of AI? And also looking ahead to 2024, what do you see coming in AI our way? And we'll go to Perry, and after that, we'll go to Colton and back to April.
Yeah, it's extremely interesting. Just in the last hour, I saw a report on X about somebody who had proven a test case of using a 1.6 billion parameter AI on a $6 microcontroller that was basic, that was capable of basic reasoning with quite a wide-ranging data set. Basically, you're going to see every toy that your kid has is essentially at least a rudimentary C3PO level droid, maybe not with like actuator output, but at least for reasoning. And I think that what is going to become explosively important over 2024 is, where is the training data set for these AIs? What biases does it have? And is it under our control? So the importance of training data sets for these AIs that our families are going to be immersed in is going to become, I think, probably the most important thing for most people.
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to agree a lot with Craig there, that I think the most useful short-term use cases of AI are going to be in internal workflow development. I think as far as predicting what the future holds, I would say we don't know. I think that's the interesting things about these times. I think if you would ask somebody 10 years ago how AI was going to disrupt the workforce and the job market, I think most people would have said, well, truckers and blue collar jobs are going to be automated out. Here comes ChatGPT 3, and we're not seeing that. We're seeing white collar information, knowledge based jobs being automated out. So I'm always hesitant to predict the long term future, but I would say that idealistically, it would move in towards the the end goal of a more decentralized users. Basically, I see infrastructure and platform startups in the AI space would be the ones that I'd want to watch. I do think we're going to see a pretty big bubble in the sort of software as a service LLM models. If you look at the VC funding since ChatGPT 3 came out, I mean, there's companies that are raising millions and millions of dollars, yet the platforms like Google Cloud Platform is creating tools where somebody without much coding knowledge could create the same service that they're offering within a couple hours, right? So I do think there's a big investment bubble just because of the hype of ChatGPT 3. So look out for that if you're investing in the market. I do see the infrastructure, people who are creating the tools that help the end users create their own models and basically work with the technology on their own terms. That's where I hope it goes, and that's where I think it's going. I'll pass it on to you, April, if you have any more comments there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So for CTI, there's 3 areas that we're focused on this year. One is our offshore development team that's managed by US team is really focused on politics. 2024 is our political season, and we're working with a company called Polytech who's creating polling that's actually accurate and pulls in lots of information, from social media, from all different types of sites, and kind of brings that together and really tries to understand what's really happening out there. As you know, the polling industry is just tanked over the last couple of years, and they can't seem to predict anything. So we're working very closely with a lot of politicians and trying to get that up and started. The other area that we're focused on is in the marketing area. If you think about, what AI can do and helping to develop presentations, information, one-pagers, even for outreach. I mean, some of the algorithms and things with AI that you can do to, really have realistic replies to different types of outreach is just constantly changing, and we're trying to perfect that in many ways. One of the things that we're doing is we have an AI tool that goes out and solicits different journalists out there in the industry that are looking to write particular articles or have written articles on different subjects. And for our clientele, I'm getting them in front of journalists and in front of TV personalities using AI to do that. So that's really exciting. And then I think where I have the most passion from a nonprofit standpoint, we're working with an intelligence agency, F3 Intelligence, who is working on a software that uses AI and other different types of information that helps to find missing children, trafficked children, and utilizing that to solve cold cases. And in one instance, they were able to solve a 10-year-old cold case of a missing child in 35 minutes. So that to me gets me excited about how we can change different industries using AI. And if you're not in AI, then that is going to be the engine growth for most companies in 2024.
That is incredible. What a wonderful story, April, and thank you for sharing that. And that's a great segue into our next question. How do we maintain our humanity in the face of AI? I want to reiterate one of the things I said earlier, but also piggyback off what Perry said. If you want to be serious about software, you have to be serious about hardware. The best case to maintain our humanity is to ensure that good hardware is becoming available, cheaply accessible, unrestricted, unregulated from the standpoint of losing our privacy, losing our control, and making sure that the data sets that our AIs are training off of are something that we have control over. But I also want to stress that, of course, AI is a bit of a black box. The more advanced the AI is, the harder it is to know how it's reaching, what conclusions it's reaching. And so There is one company I can speak to, and that this is Web AI and a few others. There are companies out there working on trying to solve that black box issue so that there can be a degree of reliability in what they're working on, and in how the AI is being put together. And that is a core need right now, because there is so many there's so much functionality and so much capability that it's easy for bias, it's easy for errors to be introduced into a system that has no way of self-correcting. And that's where you need multiple AIs having that pipeline, that workflow to check. But of course, at some point, there needs to be a source of truth. So to maintain our humanity, we have to have better solutions there. And that's just a call to the industry at large. Secondly, if you are in a position or a point in life where you're wondering about your own job security or that of your firm or your company, I would say as much as possible to emphasize the human elements of what you do, because the human elements are something that AI will be able to fake, of course, to a degree. But at the end of the day, those sides of us are something that that connection, the special connection that we can have in meetings, in actual interaction, in face-to-face and other segments, and of course in counseling, in creativity, those sorts of authentic things that only a human can give. There's never going to be a lack of that in the marketplace, and there's never going to be something that that's not something AI can take away, is what I'm trying to say there. On the maintaining our humanity side, on the spiritual side of things, if I can hop into that for a second, that's a touchy subject, of course, but I do helm a 501c3 nonprofit called AO Lab that was mentioned at the start. And that is a faith-based nonprofit building tools for Christian experience tools to help people understand and leverage the Bible. And we will want to introduce AI in measured and in calculated ways. But for dealing with something like a sacred text like the Bible, and this isn't just for Christianity, for any religion, of course, it's going to be very important to focus on the last leg of the journey, which is, for lack of a better word, I'll just call it notarization. We need to have ways to ensure authentic human input was made here that's far more advanced and better than a CAPTCHA to verify that something is coming from a creative human spirit. I guess I'll leave it in general terms there. But the challenge for our nonprofit is we want to bring many people together to leverage and enjoy sharing and diving into whatever their perspective is on the Bible in a way that's going to be edifying, building people up, and is going to be encouraging conversation, while at the same time maybe using AI to prompt and guide, but not to author, and always to pass the check back to the human to reflectively listen and say, hey, is this what you mean? Is this what you're saying? Because if not, let's make sure that this is your actual thoughts. And having an AI that's well trained on not steering you and being able to check itself, and even at points refuse to offer help in a way that's going to say, hey, I know you're asking me for help on spiritual advice or life advice, but I am not a qualified thing to speak to that. I'm an AI. Go find a real human, right? So having an AI that's self-aware enough to not speak and to pass the ball, so to speak, back to the person pondering the question, or to hand it off to another human, that's going to be a very important and vital role, not just in what we're doing, but in every industry. And so do keep that human touch in mind. So with that, any thoughts on how we can maintain our humanity in the face of AI? And once more, we'll go back in the order we came, and I'll go back to April, and then we'll hand it to Colton and then to Perry.
Great. I love your example of the Bible. So just I'll talk about the spiritual aspect, and then I'll also talk about the humanity piece of it. So from a biblical standpoint, we actually have on staff at our church a pastor who's working on his doctorate through Cambridge. We'll have that finished off by this early summer. And one of the things that he's doing is figuring out how to use AI and actually DNA sequencing to those same tools to figure out the thousands of texts that are out there with biblical writing throughout all of history. And so he's using some of that to triage, to show, hey, these texts these are accurate, these are accurate. So really getting to the truth of some of the doctrinal pieces of the Bible that you look at, and being able to show through history this has been maintained, and how truth will always exist through the Bible. So that's very exciting piece that I couldn't totally explain it all, but it absolutely has been fascinating listening to him on a regular basis with what he's doing. On the humanities side, I think education is very, very important. I think that conservatives in general, whether they're Christian or non-Christian or just have a conservative perspective, libertarians, I think it's really important that we simplify some of the information around AI that doesn't scare people. We can go to the extreme and show the horrible, horrific things that AI can do, but we also need to balance that with the great things that AI can do. And then educate people on how AI works, and then make sure that we're incorporating that into the things that we're building out for whatever industry we're in, right? And so I think that's very important, because I think a lot of people get scared, and I just remember in construction when we first started at Digibuild talking about blockchain, and it just wasn't even the construction people and customers that we're working with. It was even VCs where they thought, oh, blockchain, it's crypto, it's scary. Well, now look at, we've got crypto out there everywhere. So I think it's really important that education, and the right type of education, and the truth about these solutions is given to every industry, so that people with information have power. And I think that's important, that we're for our constituents, for our clients, even on the conservative side, even in the Christian side, that we're educating people.
Yeah, and I agree with all that stuff. And I'd say I think it's really important for everybody who interacts with AI, and I think we should push this both culturally and, on all levels, is to try to avoid the human impulse that is, little work, get paid, that sort of influence, like, get rich quick sort of impulse that runs deep in, I would say, most humans, at least to some degree. And so AI provides a potential way for people who are inclined towards that sort of mindset to figure out ways to produce work with very, very little effort. And that's not really their work, and that work is going to lack the human element that makes good products great. So I think trying to avoid that's really, really important. I think there's also, on the question of like decentralizing AI and controlling our own data sets, I don't think there's really a clean solution to going down that path, to the fullest extent. To quote the great Thomas Sowell, economist, there's no solutions, there's just trade-offs. So at some point in time, if you're generating all your own data, well, then you're going to have, Internet of Things devices with sensors connecting data and your personal life to a network that is probably vulnerable. So it becomes a trade-off. How much do you want to actually outsource in your life to this technology, and how much do you not? And one of the things that I would say and ask people is like, hey, there's things that I do that are hard work that could be automated and probably, process be improved. But if you actually enjoy doing something, don't look at AI as a way to make it easier. If you enjoy writing news articles, don't lean on AI to write your news articles for you. Just put in the work and use AI in the ways that it can actually, benefit and supplement your current workflows. It's a trade-off. I don't know how we're going to navigate it. I assume we're going to learn many hard lessons before we, make, significant positive progress. But, I'm glad we're all here talking about it so we can, start that conversation. I'll pass it off to you, Perry.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone said. A couple of observations. Every epoch in human history where there's been a serious invention, there's been people terrified that it's going to destroy their life or take their jobs. And I don't see, like I said, since we've used rudimentary AIs for so many decades, and even though the new ones are very much more powerful, I don't personally see them as too much of a risk. Good people with tools to amplify their outputs are going to do good things. Bad people with tools to amplify their outputs are going to do bad things. And so my goal is to provide as much power to as many good people as possible. And I think that probably a lot of people would agree with that. And second of all, there's been explosive breakthroughs just in the last 18 months in cryptographic tools that actually restore the power back to individuals to manage large scale systems, so that I think everyone would agree that the Twitters and Facebooks of the world have proven themselves unworthy of trust in terms of vetting bots versus people. And we can now build systems using technologies like Holochain that restore individual agency to groups of people to self-vet, to come together and prove that you're indeed talking to a human, and that's a first. Like that, those tools simply didn't exist 18 months ago. So I think it's very, very exciting, this combination of power that good people will have.
Yeah, and I want to elaborate, just jump in on that. It's a common phrase that we hear all the time, that AI is going to replace us, or AI is going to take our jobs, or has the potential to do that. And I think that, those mindsets and statements aren't being generous as to how incredible humans and what makes us humans, like what we really are as individuals and what we're able to bring to the table in terms of value. I think it comes from that same mindset that sees, the people or the public as, an entity in and of themselves, and not a diverse collection of individuals. And so I think, just consider that if you ever have that mindset come to mind, that humans are a lot greater than just a group that works towards a simple task. Each individual brings unique values and skills to the table that cannot be replicated by anybody else. And I just think that's an important thing to consider.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the AI is going to challenge all of us to be more authentic, and the more authentic we are, the more irreplaceable we become. At this point, we are open to questions. If anyone has any questions, if you want to leave that in the chat for us. In the meantime, while questions trickle in, I would actually love to toss the mic back to April and Colton, and let's say 3 minutes if you want to give us the brief overview of your new AI tool and how you think it might impact politics and marketing.
Yep. So just from Polytech standpoint, we're in a beta test right now, but we're working with many folks that are actually in the industry and figuring out, how to, because a lot of the polls, the way that the polls are done today, are not really done accurately, where they're pulling data from. It's not the most current information, and we know that data moves so fast. So within a 24, 36 hour span, someone might change their mind on a particular candidate or a particular subject based on new information that's coming in, and we're being inundated with information. And so as that information comes in, how do you take that information in a way that says, hey, this person is really thinking this way, or they've changed their mind on this, or here's their new thoughts, the trends that are happening. And so it's the ability to take information instantaneously and turn it into data. And that's very difficult to do. If you look across all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, well, X now, right? Reddit, you look at, Instagram, just think about even LinkedIn and there's tons of other social places where information's being captured. You think about the news and the cycle of the news. It's not 24 hours now. It's like every 12 hours, things are changing and new information's coming out. So it's the ability to take that and coalesce it and use AI to help identify what is the latest information, what are the latest trends. So that's what we're working on today. We got an amazing team of people behind us doing that work, and so that's exciting for us, because we want to get to the bottom of truth and the bottom of the things that are happening out there and what's real and what's not. And there's a lot of fake stuff out there, right? So being able to use AI to identify what's fake video, what's fake information, and that's very, very challenging. So that's what we're working on, and we're in a beta, hoping to launch that shortly.
Yeah, and I can speak a little bit more to that. So like if you could look at polls, which have a lot of problem, the actual survey bias, like, how many people actually answer the phone and respond to a phone survey during politics time? I know I'm not one of those people, right? So what they're able to do is use AI to, scour all the data, whether it's social media platforms, Google searches, to determine the sentiment and do a sentiment analysis. So what are people actually feeling? And then, comparing that with their demographic data, how likely are they to vote? And so you get a more dynamic poll that way. In terms of using AI now, I already spoke about how we're using some workflow automation tools, data and information cleaning tools here at Digibuild. But I like to play around in AI all the time. One thing that I'm just doing on the side is started this weekend. I have Google Bard and through their Vertex AI Studio, pouring through all of every single municipality in the United States rural residential building code and becoming an expert in the rural residential code, and then using the AI to build an app where somebody can input their address and the AI will tell you what you can build without a permit, right? And even eventually maybe help you generate plans to build that without a permit. And, the AI is doing that work for me, but the AI is also acting as my guide to learn how to use it, right? So it's an interesting thing. So
And that's where you just need a robot arm and a hammer and a nail, and
Yep.
tell the AI to get to work.
Yep, it's just make sure that you're the AI's guru and it's not your guru, right? So
Yes, yes. A long time ago, quick funny tangent, and then I want to ask Perry a question here. We were a part of a machine learning exercise where we were developing some of the core algorithms for vacuums and for sight. And one of the most important things for a vacuum to see and understand is whether something is or is not poop. And I can't tell you how important that is. And it's a bad thing to get wrong. And AI making that mistake in other ways is something that I think about often. I hope that's not too colorful. All right. Actually, I have a question for Perry. Talking about decentralized AI and our ability as experts and just humans in general to contain and or not contain AI. What is decentralized AI? What does it mean to you? And what do you think blockchain might bring to that conversation? And anything that you want to share related to that, we'll give you 3 minutes, and then I'm going to answer any questions that come in and then pass the mic back to Andrew to close us out.
Sure. Yeah. Well, centralized, I mean, at least in the current LLM-based AIs, right now, they're really only practically trainable using centralized training infrastructure. Like some of these AIs, the GPT-4 and 4.5 are costing millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars for a single training session. And since we really have no control over what even constitutes that training data set, let alone whether we agree with it or not, I think it's critical to that we search for breakthroughs in the ability to train large-scale AIs in a decentralized fashion. That's just personally, I think that's an existential threat. We really have to solve that problem. And sorry, what was the second half of that question?
And just blockchain's role in potentially solving that, and anything that you might want to add in there.
Specifically, the project that I started working on in 2018 as an outflow of a 20-year search for how to make distributed control systems more robust. We were controlling pipelines that spanned continents. And if you don't properly control the state of a valve, something's going to blow up and people are going to die. So this is a sort of an important problem. Well, in 2018, the Holochain people published some stuff that indicated that they had made a breakthrough in how to manage these systems in a robust fashion. I dropped everything I was doing just to prove to myself whether they were right or not. And the stuff that they've accomplished actually can form the foundation of very reliable, massively decentralized distributed systems that would be required to train these AIs in a decentralized fashion. So I think there's huge applicability to the next generation blockchain technologies, specifically to the training of AIs.
I have a question for you, Perry. What do you think? What is your sort of perspective on, centralized but open source offerings? Supposedly, what Elon Musk is going to do with X. What actually OpenAI was started to do. In the sense that where, yes, it's a centralized organization developing this, but all the training sets and models are open source. Does that solve any of the problem, or are there any particular problems that still concern you within that model?
Well, I mean, it's a great step in the right direction. I mean, if you can vet the integrity of the training corpus so that it doesn't contain any egregious errors, that's a huge step in the right direction. And then once you have a more reliable, shall we say, base trained model, then you can customize it and direct it as you would choose from that point forward. So it's a good first step.
And then a second follow-up question, just because I love talking about this stuff, is so even in a decentralized model, say you're scraping web data, say all public information on the web is, your data source for the model. How do you go around solving for the problem that, those who publish the most content, the data is going to be biased in whatever, perspective they're publishing from?
That's a good question. I think that at least from the agent-centric holochain perspective, each individual is going to have to make those decisions for themselves. Right now, we just don't have that choice. But in the future, you'll be able to join groups of people with which you agree more and use their data sets to train and tune your AIs. I think that's a good first step anyway.
Yeah, cool.
And I have several follow-up questions. I would love to talk about these things further. But we are nearing the end, and I have stolen the spotlight from Andrew, and I actually want to give it back to Andrew. You started this off, and I want to ask you, sir, having listened in on this whole conversation, any ways you might guide or shape our last final minutes here as you reflect upon what we've heard today?
Yeah, I'm happy you took it over. So thank you for doing that. That was fantastic. And can you guys hear me? Yeah, we're good,
Yep.
right? And man, so many great ideas and concepts. And if you're interested in learning more, please contact us and we'll follow up with sending you information. What I like to say to this is what Perry mentioned, where, technology is an idea that can amplify either good or evil. And what we don't want to do is get bogged down in fear. And there's a lot of fear in the marketplace that I think is purposely being driven so that people do not jump into this space. And I think it's very important, like April and Colton and Digibuild and Construction Tech Institute has done, is pioneered their way into this space by using these technologies to become world leaders in this space. And so what we want to do is take these technologies and use them and apply them. And that even involves the spiritual component of this, where it becomes spiritual technology, where we get the spiritual understanding, and then we guide the purpose and the process so that we can apply it in such a way so then people can use it to advance civilization and advance humanity. So I think this was a great first event. I think LinkedIn blocking us from posting this online is just sympathetic, or is a symptom of the problems that we're facing. We have other platforms that we will use. There are powerful groups and communities that are rising that have, humanity's ideals at the forefront of using powerful technologies like this. So this won't be the last. This will be the beginning of what we're doing. Thanks for coming on board and jumping on. And there'll be many more like this in the future, including what I discussed before, how to take your organization global in the next 90 days using AI solutions that we've discussed. And this conversation could go much deeper, as you can imagine, with guys like this. So thank you very much for joining us. And if there's any more comments by the speakers, you're welcome to share. Otherwise, we can close this off. Thank you very much, Colton, for making this possible.
Let's
Absolutely.
let's send ourselves out here in whatever capacity we can. One more closing thought from everyone, and then we'll sign off. My final parting thought, I suppose, and I'm going to pass the mic to you, April, next, and then Colton, and lastly Perry, is Li-Fi, light-based Wi-Fi allows everyone to see the internet connection, and I do hope we'll see more Li-Fi and local hardware solutions paired, where there is not only a device on premise that can harness and leverage AI for your benefit, but you can have clear line of sight as to when it's talking to the network and how. So that's my weird little tangent. To you, April, and then Colton and Perry.
Well, I thank you. I think I would say I'm probably amongst this group today the least knowledgeable about AI, but I understand its power and what it can do. And literally, I've just started this journey in the past year. So I just want to encourage other people that it's not this big, scary thing to jump into, but to just take the first step in understanding and build that knowledge as you go. And so just encourage people not to be afraid of it. And whatever industry you're in, it is going to be your competitive edge. It will be your superpower if you have knowledge about AI and how it works and how you can provide feedback to your company and organizations about how to utilize it. Even if you don't know all the intricate details of how it all works, it's just that knowledge base that's going to give you the competitive edge.
Yeah, I would just double down on what I said earlier. I'd say, just identify in your life and in your work, what efforts bring you the most purpose and the most happiness, and use AI to, facilitate and make those efforts even better. And then in the areas and things you have to get done that don't bring you as much happiness or purpose, see how you can use AI to reduce the friction there. Yep.
Totally agree. And yeah, I would just say, I would encourage anybody who is in business or just personally loves people and wants the best for people and the best for humanity, just be bold and very courageous. Now is not the time to shrink back. Now is the time to forge ahead and use these tools to your advantage.
Wonderful. Perfect words for signing off. And with that, thanks for joining. We'll see you at the next one.
Thanks, everyone.